August 22nd, 9:39 a.m. I'm calling to order the meeting of the Concord Transportation Advisory Committee with a roll call. Phil,
I'm here.
Mariana,
Here.
Nick,
Here.
and myself, Mark Galis. So we have a quorum. Thank you very much for joining. So the first item on the agenda is we have I believe four sets of minutes to approve. Are there any corrections, comments, suggested changes for any of those?
I cannot vote on the last meeting because I wasn't present.
Oh,
but
you can vote. You can vote, Nick. You can vote even if
Oh,
you're not.
okay. Dan's last name was misspelled in that. That was the only thing I noticed.
Okay, and that was the 7:23 meeting.
I think it was.
Dan's name. Okay. I also know that on the minutes that Phil prepared for the I think it's the 7-Eleven meeting. The end time was not put in, but I can put that in. Okay, if there's no other corrections or comments, I will ask for a motion to approve the minutes.
We approve the minutes of those 4 meetings.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, and Nick,
Aye.
Mariana,
Aye.
Phil,
Aye.
and myself, aye. So unanimously approved. Okay, so for the chair's report, just briefly, yesterday at the general chair's breakfast in the town, I described how we're working with staff to try to orient the Stantec consultants work in such a way as to get some tangible benefits for the town. And I pointed out again to everyone present that we have a vision statement document at the top, linked from the top of the TAC webpage, and that they should take a look at that because everybody's a stakeholder as far as transportation goes. In addition to that, anyway, I talked to Steve Dukran yesterday, got some updates, but the next thing on the agenda is about the Stantec study, so I'll wait for that. Also, I sent everybody, forwarded to everybody a letter I got from forwarded on behalf of Concord Mothers Out Front with an attached letter to us that I haven't seen distributed to members yet. Maybe it came into the website or it's going to come in later, but regarding safety in Bedford and Concord. That's pretty much the report. So let's move on to discussion of the study. So Steve Dukran yesterday informed me that staff has looked over the statement of work, asked for certain changes. It's now in Stantec's lab to come back with a final wording and pricing for the various elements of the study, so that the town can decide, what they want first, what to prioritize. Obviously one of the big things we've talked about is getting support leading up to next town's meeting for improving, maintaining roads and other types of physical infrastructure that is important for transportation. So do any of the other PAC members wish to ask questions or comments or raise issues related to the transportation and mobility study?
I have a question.
Yes, please go ahead.
Do you know if Steve put deadlines on the response from Stantec?
I don't know if there's a deadline, but he told me they're trying to get a response as quickly as possible because they need prices on things. But I don't know of any specific deadline.
Okay, so I think it would be helpful for everybody if Stantec has a deadline and it's made clear to them that the expectation is that the work and the tasks need to get done so that we can do what's been asked of us. So in other words, so that they're clear that there's a town meeting coming up, there are hearings prior to the town meeting, and that this can't just continue to roll along until some undetermined time when someone gets around to it later in the fall. That it needs to be done promptly. In other words, somebody's got to light a fire under everybody.
I will communicate with Steve and some other staff and try to do my best to make sure that gets conveyed back to Stantec. It's been very frustrating, I think, for all of us, the way that the links in the chain all have delays back and forth. And I, in my opinion, TAC has done a very good job with the vision statement and trying to help staff in terms of getting a study from the consultant that provides tangible benefits to the town. But I agree with, I'm also frustrated, Phil. So I will do my best to communicate back to staff on that. I see Terry Ackerman, our select board liaison, has her hand up. Please, Terry.
Hi, thank you. Yes, I agree with Phil and Mark. And I have been talking with Carrie about this. I am going to talk to her again. I'm very concerned about this timeline. Town meeting sounds like it's far away, but really we need to know by October what the results of the study are, not how much the study's going to be and when they're going to start. It's already August. We are way off. The reason we need that is in October, we are doing the capital plan. And in December, it's approved. And in January, it goes in the warrant. So it's not that far off. I will talk to Carrie again. I have a question about that they're going to identify additional costs. We have 75,000 left with them. Is that correct?
I believe that's true.
So, do we need additional money besides that 75? I'm a little confused about this.
Okay, I've been told that the reason that we need to get a clear repricing from Stantec is that we've already told them that staff has told them that there are certain items that we do not need, that either TAC or staff already has the information in terms of setting some priorities and community needs. And, we want to move forward more towards implementation or what is needed in terms of supporting implementation. So some things have been dropped, which would reduce those costs, but some things have been added or refocused, which would be additional costs. But I've been told that in additional money is available and may be needed from the town that's already presumably available. It didn't sound like there was an obstacle to that. And the other thing is that I did ask Steve Dukran when talking about the urgency of this, if the town could request from Stantec that certain parts of the study be phased so that we get these critical things for the October budgeting as soon as possible. And he said, yes, absolutely, could be staged. So I'll repeat that and pass that back. And for anybody who hasn't been following this closely, as closely as we have, originally the staff point contact for the managing the contract with Stantec, the consulting firm hired by the town. Originally, the point of contact was Aaron Stevens, who was our transportation planner in the working in the planning division. But when she left employment with the town, Steve Dukron was assigned to be the point of contact, the town engineer. So everything kind of goes through him, and he's having to assemble whatever input from other staff, along with what the TAC has been saying, and convey that back to Stantec. And so he's been doing the lion's share of the work to get this done, and everybody else, my understanding is all the rest of the staff is extremely busy with one thing or another. So you know, there's a lot of wheels turning here, but I understand the urgency, and I will go back to Steve and some other staff too that might be able to help. And Terry, if you're able to talk to the town manager or anybody, I think one thing that's very helpful, or might be very helpful, would be again to focus on the staging of the work of the consultant. Otherwise, I'm afraid that they'll choose the order of actions in such a way that it's we get what we need too late.
That's right. So that's a great idea. I think we should figure out what we absolutely need by October and tell them, this is stage one. We need this and this and this by, I think we should tell them October 1st. I know that's only 6 weeks, but they're not going to be done even by the end of October the way they're going. So
yeah, I can also ask Steve if it's possible to convey to the consultant if there are delays in pricing everything, perhaps they can break out and price that action.
exactly. Thank you.
So
yes, go
Mark,
ahead.
can I
Phil.
make another suggestion?
Yes.
I suggest that you speak with Carrie and Megan and have them speak with Steve.
They will.
That's,
They will definitely do that. Yes.
because if it comes, with all due respect, if it comes from us, I don't think that's going to prioritize Steve's work. If it comes from Carrie and Megan, and then, the DPW director, Alan, then it will prioritize his actions and the consultant's actions, because, we're just
Sorry, Phil, go ahead.
yeah, that's it. That's all I said.
Okay, I take your suggestion and I agree with it, and I will reach out also to the higher level staff in the town. Does anybody else have any, Nick or Mariana, do you have any comments, questions,
Well,
advice?
just, it seems that since we have an open contract with them, it could be specifically pointed out not only which items we need urgently, but that they should start on those right away, while they in parallel figure out how to respond to the rest of the request.
Okay,
My fear is that they will not do any work at all until they are ready to respond to the entire request, and that would be disastrous.
yeah, I agree. That would not be helpful at all. And I think there's another reason why I should talk to Carrie and Megan, I think, is that there's some municipal contract management constraints, and as soon as allocating funds and negotiating prices and things are concerned, there are a bunch of rules have to be followed, so that it may be hard to accelerate things, but we'll do our best.
Well, but we have an open contract with them, so
We do.
and I believe that stuff could be that we need urgently could be completed in that contract without worrying about anything related to negotiations. That's got to do with the other stuff.
Right. We could say this item, a town could say this item this deadline and using some of the remaining money in the original contract to do that. Maybe that can be done. Okay, I'll follow up on that and let people know. Mariana, did you have any suggestions or comments on this
I'm
topic?
just excited to see that kind of continue moving forward. Do we have a time frame for when we want to have that next public meeting? Once we kind of get past this next step with Stantec?
Well, that's a very good question. Getting the public informed about these transportation funding priorities is very important. And the town manager, Carrie LaFleur, has expressed a strong desire to have the consultants work support efforts to fund necessary maintenance and improvements. And my feeling, and I've discussed this with staff, and I think it's also one of the things in the revision of the statement of work, is that TAC is very well suited to have a public meeting, either one of its regular meetings with a lot of publicity to announce to people. And we would like to set something up like that with Stantec providing a preliminary report on these urgent needs and how to accomplish, how to fund them, what it takes, etc. But I think there's been an agreement that we do not need Stantec to send 8 employees to a large gathering on the time clock when we have TAC, which can facilitate this, but that we would like to have something from Stantec to share with the public, which is this, kind of professional analysis of how to accomplish what we're saying are priorities. So yeah, that's another piece of the puzzle, and I think it's kind of operates in parallel with what Terry was saying, is that we need something by October so that we can both, the select board can discuss it, and finance department and FinCom, et cetera, and Public Works, but also that we can reach out to the public and start bringing them along. So that's a good question. All right, I'm gonna move on to the next agenda item. I just wanted to briefly recap at our last meeting, Laura Davis provided us with an excellent kind of collection of an analysis and recommendations gathered about effective parking for bicycles and what works, what doesn't work, etc. And I believe Laura has tweaked that a little more and sent that in. So one of the things I wanted to just very briefly visit in the group here in the meeting was how do we use that? So I know that Elizabeth Hughes, the town planner, expressed interest a while back in saying that it'd be very good for the planning board and other groups like that to have this information, so that when there are requests on a development project or something to put in some accommodation, for bicycle parking, that it would have all the features, whether protected from elements or locked or actually usable for cargo bikes, as opposed to something that you can barely get a small bike on. So I just wanted to ask people if you had any suggestions of where else this could be useful, besides obviously providing it to the planning division, the planning board. Nick?
Yeah, specifically the planning board. I'd already reached out to Mark Giddings, I think, on the planning board regarding parking and the study they're about to do on parking. And that was on Elizabeth's advice. And Now that wasn't at our last meeting, but I did see, the discussion, the notes, and I was particularly drawn to the, suggestions about including bicycle parking requirements, in plans submitted by developers and, et cetera. And so I will have a discussion with him about that, since he's the point person for parking for the planning board.
Okay, that's great, because I think there's a tremendous opportunity when there, maybe also with the I don't know if the zoning board of appeals is reactive, not proactive, but in terms of reviewing accommodations that a developer or somebody starting business might that might involve bicycles, having them informed, the zoning board of appeals also informed about what would be actually beneficial, functional bicycle parking accommodations, as opposed to something that could be called that, but it's not really useful. That might be good. But if anybody thinks of other ways this could be used, I assume that Public Works might as well know about it too.
What about
Public Works.
what about the economic
Yeah,
vitality?
economic vitality, yeah.
It seems to me that there's some, what Laura did would be very useful input to anyone involved in economic vitality and the businesses that operate, within the town.
Okay, it never hurts to send things to people twice or three times, to avoid not them getting it at all, perhaps. So I will see that it gets sent, in addition to planning, to the ZBA, Public Works, Commission, Economic Vitality Commission, either through the staff liaison or through the chair. If there's no more comments on that
I have just a
go
couple.
ahead, Phil.
Sorry, I
Go
can't
ahead,
raise my hand, Mark. So I would also add the school the school
Schools, yes,
department
yes, very
and the
good,
rec
very good.
department to that list.
Yes, very good, thanks. I don't know how we could miss those. Okay. Okay, very good. So I'll do a first cut on that and kind of report back to people. Okay, the next item actually is kind of interesting. It's a little bit analogous to that, is we were talking at the last meeting, or the last regular meeting, about best methods for communication and collaboration with other boards, committees, and with different town departments. And I had suggested maybe that people could, the members of TAC could think about what's the priority out of all the committees in town and all the departments, which ones we kind of most need to work with. And I know that we have, working up towards next town meeting and infrastructure maintenance needs, we've got to be keeping in close contact with the finance committee and of course the planning board. But obviously what just came up in terms of this list of economic vitality, Public Works, ZBA, planning, school, and rec departments, those obviously are, would anyone disagree that those are committees that, at least selectively, based on their agendas or on what we have to offer, are committees that we need to
Say them again, Mark, please.
So yeah, I'm trying to, I'll go through it again. Economic vitality, Public Works, zoning board of appeals, planning, school department, and recreation department.
Well,
and I mean, there's many more.
Are those the most urgent, or because I think there are others?
Yeah, let's try to make a short list of the most urgent and maybe an additional list of things that as priority arises, maybe. So what would you say, Nick, since you have the floor right now?
Okay, I went through the list of committees and came up with a list. It's long, actually. There's about 10, 15 or so committees which we have some reason to communicate with. And
Okay.
I'll just rattle off the list. There's the Battle Road Scenic Byway Committee, the Climate Action Committee, Commission on Disabilities, and housing, I guess probably the Housing Development Concord Housing Development Committee, the Council on Aging, the Concord 250 Executive Committee, the Economic Vitality. There's a local emergency planning committee. And obviously the Finance and Capital Planning Task Force, Historic Districts Commission, MCI Concord Advisory Board, Natural Resources because of trails, the Planning Board, Public Works Commission, School Committee, and the Traffic Management Group. And of course, the Select Board and the Select Board. So,
Yes.
you know, that's a fair number. Now, obviously, some are more urgent than others, and it changes with time, but there are quite a few. I suggest that what we need to do is just identify maybe the few that are most urgent that we need to talk to right away and about what, and then, you know, figure out how we're going to do that.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. You know, one of the concerns I had in terms of putting this on an earlier meeting agenda and repeating it, you know, revisiting it again today, is that you know, while it might be easy on a high level to say assign liaisons to various committees and follow them, et cetera, that's not very efficient with people's time, because sometimes there's only a small bit of what's going on in a meeting, or many meetings, even with FinCom, there might be a lot of things going on that don't directly concern us. So I'm sensitive to the fact that people have various commitments in their lives, and we need TAC members to show up at meetings. We just got a quorum today. That's the primary job of TAC members, I think. But I think, like Nick is saying, we need to prioritize and be selective. So Phil, do you have and Mariana, I'll go Phil first and then Mariana. Do you have recommendation yourself for in the near term, the top few committees we need to be kind of overdoing our communication with? You there, Phil?
Well, yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, very well.
Okay. I think my sense is that Public Works Committee and the school department are the two top ones that we need to be in contact with, and then later in the year, the Finance Committee.
Okay. That makes sense. Mariana, do you have some
Hi,
advice?
I'm still here.
Yeah, do you? Go ahead.
I see Public Works as definitely a priority. What was the one? I know you just listed them, but is there the sustainability group? Were we working on something with them? I'm just looking at my emails. Also, I'll be kind of back online where I've sort of been on maternity leave. So starting next week, I'm kind of back online and being more available for a little more flexibility for meetings and stuff.
That's great. Yeah, yeah, so I mean, we had some previous conversations about you know, the sustainability aspect of transportation development and improvement, et cetera. With regard to the I mean, I feel like might be good for me to try to connect regularly and follow Public Works, because that's they're definitely involved in the implementation and some of the constraints and budgeting, et cetera. Specifically FinCom, we have to figure out how to kind of engage with them. A while back, Phil and I kind of took turns or collaborated or independently kind of visited FinCom meetings and made statements on the need for the maintenance of infrastructure, having that more fully funded rather than partially funded as it has been for years. The MCI Concord at the it was when I was at the chair's breakfast, it was, mentioned, the select board chair, Mary Hartman, said, you know, this is really gonna go on for years. The Department of Corrections is still holding on to it for about a year to decommission it. And so that's not moving fast, but obviously that's very important. The 250th issues, Nick, it's been my impression that, you know, they have a very good group working on emergency management and aspects of transportation, but it hasn't been, not that much has been disclosed to the public. So and some of the things that relate to public safety, they actually probably don't want to disclose to the public. Even though a lot of effort and money is spent on it.
Uh,
So
So, let's see, Mark, it seems to, so here's one thought. Obviously, the very top priority is whatever we need to do related to development of the budgets for next fiscal year. That's very top priority.
that's the
Beyond
biggest,
that,
biggest.
I think the next thing that we need to do is take the vision document that we adopted and communicate with several committees, including the select board, about that. We need to go to the select board at some point and say, this is what we've created, and we've discussed it with the following committees, and we've gotten the following feedback, and this is what we're doing next. So I think identifying whatever, I hope it's no more than 4 or 5 key committees whose support we need for that document, and then working with those committees on that document, taking it to them and explaining it and getting their feedback, and then going to the select board. I think that after the budgeting urgency, that's our next most important thing to do.
Okay, so if we I take those 2 points, I think are very good. So, you know, number one, supporting the budget targeting and allocation. Number two, communicating and sharing our vision document with select board and certain other committees so that they can you know, evaluate it from their point of view, either what they agree with or disagree with as far as priorities, or what, you know, implementation or action on these things. We listed 7 action areas. I think that's so that's very important. So next step, Nick, you've been, even though planning, I'm not sure if the planning board is the most urgent for that, but you've been working with them. I think I should, I would like to volunteer to work closely with Public Works Department and also talk to some people at the FinCom, maybe the chair of the FinCom, and try to get that started up. But in regards to the key first, you know, ideally, we'd like to get all committees a positive recommendation for the budgeting task. But again, can we just revisit again the most crucial ones? It would be that, I think, you know, that we need the select board to be behind it. We need the FinCom.
I think climate action is important because
Mhm.
a big things like transit service very much benefit climate action's goals, and
Right.
to make sure we're aligned with them on that. So I would volunteer to work with them and run it by them and see where they get their feedback on it.
Okay, and yeah, I mean, I don't know what the
And
best
also, I would
mechanism.
volunteer to do economic vitality because I used to own a small business for many years, and I think I understand what the issues are in that community.
Okay, so starting with clean sheet of paper, Nick, you're going to work with economic vitality. Did you say you want to work with the climate action?
Yes, yes.
Okay, all right. Okay. Phil, one of your important high-level groups for general collaboration, well, you said the school department, and you've worked with different programs related to school, right?
Yeah.
But how important or how urgent or is that something that we need to do continuously going forward? Or is it something we need to prioritize for this budget, tight budget schedule? Or is it, which bucket does it fall into?
Well, I have a couple of observations about it. The
Mhm.
first is the school department actually runs a public transit system. And, I think having the school department and the town recognize that and sort of integrate it a little bit more tightly with how the entire town runs would be important. So, I think it is a relatively high thing in terms of priorities. Historically, the school department has kind of run on its own track, separate from the town. So, they may or may not be interested in hearing from me too much, but I think it's worth a crack. That's my view of it. At least it's worth, scheduling a meeting with them and saying, here's what we're doing and what. So, and then I'll volunteer to do that. But, I know some of the people.
So what I'm hearing is that if we identify priority collaboration, we call it, there's short-term and there's long-term, and the schools fall into the long-term in terms of short-term being
I think
October.
Right. Right. I think that's true. I think it's long-term.
Okay, great. Okay. And Nick, with regard to economic vitality and climate action,
That's all about it's all about shopping the vision to them, discussing that with them.
right, but how does it impact the budget?
I think it does in terms of whatever we're gonna try to get into the budget for public transit funding, long-term, because that's a long-term big issue. I think we need the support of both of those for that. I think I think for that, we also need the support of the COA and possibly the Commission on Disability.
Yes, absolutely. So,
So we
okay.
need someone, I think, to talk to COA and someone to work with the Commission on Disability.
I have spoken to both groups a few times. And I can certainly touch base again. Would we want to, in terms of the, I'm wondering if we could combine a couple things. If we agree that we need to make a fairly soon a presentation to the select board on the goals and actions in the vision statement, and then highlight the ones that are urgent, time sensitive, short term. Perhaps then we can take that same presentation to these other groups, and in that way bring them, align all of this support.
Well, I think we ought to just do them all as quickly as if I were a select board member and you came to me, I would ask first if you had already worked this with the other committees. So I don't think necessarily going to the select board first is the most important. I think except for the budget issues.
Okay, that makes sense. Well, do you want, okay, we have without a presentation, we have this posted document, right? So,
I'm just thinking for that document, I'm just thinking you take that document and that's what you present and you talk to it.
Right, so I could say I'm going to volunteer to present that document to the FinCom in some fashion to the FinCom and to Public Works Commission, for
Mhm.
example. And Phil, maybe, you know, again, just building up general support, you might be willing to communicate to some people in the school department about that. Mariana, do you have a okay, so Nick, would you do it with economic vitality and climate action?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Out of this long list of things, Mariana, do you have any, just offhand, do you have any groups that you think you would like to you're already following or you're interested in following? I mean, you don't have to particularly commit here. You can take your time and
I think this, just to prime the pump there, I think the COA and the Commission on Disability are pretty, very important ones to get to. Those are of interest, Mariana.
Yeah. I mean, I'm still kind of getting acquainted with all the different committees and stuff. So, you know, kind of just interested in getting to know a bunch and probably nothing real conclusive to add.
Okay.
The question is,
Well-
would you feel okay taking the vision statement we approved and discussing it with those committees to see if they have any you know, feedback, comments, suggestions, things we're missing, whatever.
Yeah. Is that me personally or the committee?
You personally.
I do not have a lot of bandwidth right now.
Okay, okay, that's good.
Okay,
Good
that's
answer.
perfectly fine. By the
I'll
way,
pass
I
on
can-
special assignments for the time being.
Okay,
I can check, I can communicate with the chairs of those two committees, which I've done before. And if we don't need to make a presentation, we just basically alert them to that document, which they may or may not already have noticed, and be available to answer questions. I think that'd be great.
okay,
So
well, if there's a schedule, you know, it's just going to a meeting and, you know, presenting the document. I mean, I'm willing to do that on those committees as well. I just, you know, let's see what comes up when you talk to them.
okay, okay. If I'm not able to do it, I might ask Nick if he could do it. So I see a couple of hands raised from non-committee members, and I would like to take those comments. I assume they're related to this particular agenda item. Is that correct? So Pat?
Yeah, thank you, Mark. Yeah, I just wanted to say, Nick, if you wanted to get together, I am the planning board liaison, and I would love to sit down and hear from you about this document. And, you know,
Okay.
I'm a kind of a face-to-face person. I'm retired, I have time.
Great, okay. Let's see, could you,
I'll
Let
put
me-
in the chat my phone number and my email.
great,
If-
okay, good.
okay.
I'll contact you and we'll find a time, and we can probably maybe just do it through Zoom. That'll be fine.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay. Thank you, Pat. Carlin?
Hi,
As
Carlin Reed, member of the Finance Committee, but speaking on my behalf, I just want to let you know, Mark, we were at the chair's breakfast. You mentioned the 2-page document. I found it, downloaded it, and Eric Dahlberg, our chair, incorporated that into the minutes that we had sent out yesterday that has a direct link to your 2-page document. So FinCom has received your document. So we've laid the groundwork for anytime you want to discuss. My recommendation on how to approach FinCom is, when do you want to spend money and how much do you want to spend? When you have that information, come chat with us and talk to Eric and get on the schedule. And especially if you're going to be supporting a warrant article, because it's always a good idea to come to FinCom before the public hearings to talk about the warrant articles. Thanks, that's it.
Thank you very much, Carlin. Thank you very much for being here. I hope that seeing the live conversation back in here and deliberation helps give a little reality to the challenge and what we're trying to do. Terry?
Yes,
Yes,
it's great to
go on,
have
Lisa.
Pat it's great to have Pat and Carlin here. The more we can all communicate, the better. I'm a little confused about this document. Is this the same thing that is the scope of services that is sent?
No, no. It
No,
was about 2 or 3 meetings ago, we
Right.
reviewed the document. And it's the one that said vision and then guiding principles, and then it said what we wanted for the roads and the public transit, and it just laid out in 2 pages
yeah.
what we saw the
I'm,
big
I'm
vision.
sure I have it. Could
If you
someone?
go, if
Yeah.
you go to the TAC page, it's at the top of the page, there's a link to it.
Okay, and I believe the select board may have gotten that document at the time, I'm not sure. But I do agree, if you hear from the other committees, and then schedule a time with the select board, that would be great, especially to talk about again, lighting a fire. The more times, I've already sent the email now to Carrie and Megan, so the more times we discuss it, because I know that it's one of the town manager's top goals, and we've been talking about it at the select board. We are definitely going to have this year a very large public works infrastructure article for capital. But what's going to be in it? Well, we need to work with Stantec quickly. So we are going to have that article, and the more information we have from them, the better. But definitely everyone's planning that way. And one more thing I want to say about that is that Phil and Mark, and maybe Nick, when you went to FinCom and talked about infrastructure last year, you were heard, because that is such a big priority now this year. Thank
Yep.
you.
A quick
Okay,
question,
thank you.
Pat Nelson, chat isn't enabled. Are you pcknelson@gmail.com? Yeah, okay, got it. Found you.
Excellent. And let me just add one more thing to what Nick said about that vision document. One of the, or at least from my point of view, one of the important functions of that, I think, was for TAC to summarize what we've heard from the community, what we've learned during the long-range plan process, what we heard from the consultant-enabled survey and outreach session, and kind of put that into this document with goal, vision document with goals and actions. Keep it short, keep it 2 pages, keep it focused. And while TAC is not directly able to manage the contracted consultant, that has to be done by town staff, this document we felt would be helpful for staff in telling the consultant, we want things delivered that are relevant to accomplishing these actions or supporting these actions that TAC kind of on behalf of the public at large is saying are priorities. So it's not the statement of work, but it's a document that TAC has put together, which can be a guiding document for both Stantec's work and other work. And it would be great to share it with other committees and things. Okay, so do any TAC members want to say more about this collaboration? I think we got a few good ideas out of it, a few good actions, and we'll take it up again going forward for sure. So the next item on the agenda is liaison comments. Terry, do you have any additional comments you wanted to make?
No, I found the document. I'm going to circulate it to the select board again, and
Yeah.
just let Mary know when you want to come in.
Okay, great. And we know that people have a lot of things to read, so we tried to keep it very focused, and we're happy to come in and explain it more or hear comments and suggestions.
Great.
Okay, and now I will open up the floor for public comment, and there's some members of the public here in the room. I don't know, shall I take online first, or you want to?
She was gonna read it, Kristen.
Okay, Kristen, you have the floor.
Hi, how are you?
Very good.
My name's Kristen Tolfree. I've been in this meeting in these meetings a couple of times, but I don't know if I've met everyone here, so just wanted to introduce myself. I am here representing the Mothers Out Front letter that was sent to the committee, and I'm just going to read the letter to start. And I also have a personal story to share, if that's okay. Dear members of the Concord Transportation Advisory Committee, we would like to begin by expressing our sincere gratitude for your ongoing efforts to improve pedestrian safety in Concord Center, particularly at the intersection of Main and Walden Streets, as well as throughout the town. Your commitment to making Concord a safer place for residents and visitors alike is greatly appreciated. However, a recent tragedy where a woman was struck and killed by a distracted driver while crossing Route 62 at the crosswalk connecting the Reformatory Branch Trail with the Minuteman Bike Trail underscores the urgent need for a safe corridor connecting Concord Center with the Minuteman Bikeway. Concord Center is a vibrant business district, home to small shops, restaurants, and the commuter rail station. It serves as a hub for both residents and visitors, attracting patronage from all over. The Minuteman Bikeway, passing through the historic area where the American Revolution began in April 1775, is one of the most popular and successful rail trails in the United States. There is a clear need for a safe route for individuals of all ages and abilities to travel between these two popular destinations. While the Concord Bridge recently published an article highlighting car crashes throughout the town, it's important to acknowledge that many near misses or accidents go unreported. It is common for drivers not to slow down for crosswalks, posing a significant risk to pedestrians and bikers, as more people opt to leave their cars behind. Part of Concord's and Massachusetts sustainability goals, ensuring safe passage for all is crucial. With the upcoming Concord 250 celebrations, bringing in visitors unfamiliar with the area, this need is even more pressing. This requires long-term planning and investment to benefit both current and future generations of Concord residents. Consideration of road redesign and infrastructure improvements, as was done at Main and Walden Streets, is essential. Roads designed for speed will inevitably have fast-moving cars. Therefore, road diets, flashing lights at crosswalks, and grade-separated crossings where possible should be part of the strategy. Enhancing safe routes to visit Concord Center would likely increase business patronage and reduce car congestion by encouraging active modes of transportation, such as walking or cycling. This would not only provide a safe, healthy, and enjoyable way for residents and visitors to move around Concord, but also make the area more accessible for those with mobility needs, strollers, and young children. We respectfully request that the committee focus its efforts on ensuring a safe, car-free path between Concord Center and the Minuteman Bikeway, coordinating with the Bedford Transportation Advisory Committee. The Concord chapter of Mothers Out Front is eager to assist in this endeavor and will be promoting a week without driving in October, which will include an AARP bike corridor audit of Concord's bike paths. We welcome committee members to join us in this audit to identify areas for improvement. Thank you for your attention to this critical matter. We look forward to your continued leadership in making Concord a safer, more accessible community for everyone. Sincerely, the Concord chapter of Mothers Out Front, and supporting members and allies. And we currently have 62 signatures on our letter. So, oh goodness. So I just wanted to share a quick story. I brought my family the same day as the accident. We rode our bikes from Lowell Road, our home on Lowell Road, to the Science Museum, and we did ride on Route 62 on the same day that the accident happened. We went through on our way home. All of the police and firefighters. I didn't know at the time what was going on. But I knew something bad had happened, and yeah, and the next day, a friend of mine from Bedford, a mom biking advocate friend from Bedford, sent me the article of the car crash. It really hit me very hard. And because I brought my family, my 3 children and my husband, we were all riding our bikes right through there, and yeah, it could have been us. So anyway, that's really all I wanted to share. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, Kristen, for reading the letter into the record and for sharing that your experience. Is there another public comment? Okay, maybe come closer to. Do you want to? Why don't you just come? If you come here, I think this will pick you up. We'll make sure.
I also wanted to
Why
share,
don't you introduce yourself?
sorry,
So-
Linda Neiman, 59 Mallard Drive. I also wanted to share another example of that, is not reported, but often happens where cars don't slow down. My kids like to bike into town and hang out, biking is great for their independence. They like to go to the library, hang out with their friends. And like the next day or 2 days after that accident, my son told me that on his way to the library, that when he was crossing Lowell Road, that, it often happens, cars won't slow down, but he was waiting, as you teach your kids, he waited for the car to slow down so he could cross.
Mhm.
And unfortunately, the car behind it
Oh,
did not. It was not paying attention. It had to slam on its brakes and it went off onto the side. And so even when you tell your kids and you prepare them, I mean, these incidents will continue to happen. And the only thing we can blame the driver, of course, it's terrible, distracted driving, but that's not going to go away. We really need to create the infrastructure and create road designs where these things don't happen. That's it. Thank you.
thank you very much, Linda. I see Ann Sussman online. Hello, Ann.
Hi. I know that I don't want to take too much time on your meeting, but I just did want to say, I did send you a map of 4 missing crosswalks in West Concord.
Yes.
And I really
Yes.
think there's urgency here and it looks like there's real urgency here because particularly with 2025 coming, there'll be many more tourists and visitors. And so maybe I could talk about that, how we might raise the money or the funding to get those crosswalks in West Concord. I also would urge all TAC members to visit Lexington Center. 2 years ago, they completed a complete redesign, hiring a landscape architect to do amazing wide crosswalks and beautiful sidewalks. It's incredible. It's so much more walkable than what Concord has. It's really amazing what they've done in preparation for 2025. And I think we can learn from what our neighbors have done and practice it here. I'd be happy to present next week, next month, or if you have time, about the West Concord sidewalks that are missing. I used to be on the West Concord Advisory Committee, and we tried also for many years to try to get that fixed, and nothing happened. Thank you very much.
Okay, so not to go into detail, but perhaps I can put on the agenda for the next meeting a discussion of prioritizing locations where crosswalks are particularly a concern to people, because this is something that we've talked about, and we've talked about ways of trying to slow cars and alert them. But there was in the outreach parts, the survey, the map with pins, the sticky notes on boards, parts of the Stantec, initial outreach gathering. But I think it's been hard to boil this down to a crucial first few places, you know, to focus on. And I think there's a lot can be done with infrastructure. You mentioned wide crosswalks. Some places they're hard, you know, they're hard for a driver to see, or they get used to zooming by when it's unoccupied. So perhaps on the next meeting, which is in 3 weeks, we could talk about and encourage public to kind of come and give input on prioritizing kind of the first relatively small number of locations, especially with the 250th, and also with infrastructure discussions going on.
I'd be
Mark,
happy. Thank you.
Okay,
Mark?
I'll talk to you later. Nick, go ahead.
Yes, regarding that tragedy on Route 62, the first thing that came to my mind when I heard of it is that there was a plan for a grade separated crossing exactly at that point. The plan was rejected by the voters of the town of Bedford. I'd like to suggest that, for various reasons, I'd like to suggest that we ask staff to reach out to the town of Bedford to find out if anything has changed or what they're planning to do about the possibility of resuscitating that plan that was rejected. Because the only thing that's going to make that particular area particularly safe, I think, is going to be a grade separated crossing, basically putting a tunnel under the road.
Okay, thanks, Nick. Tanya, you got us?
So can I just jump in for a second? Mark, sorry, I can't raise my hand.
Okay,
yeah,
go ahead, Phil, just brief.
Just on a couple of points in terms of Nick's comment. Interestingly enough, a majority vote in the town of Bedford was positive for doing that plan of action. And the reason why it didn't happen was that in order to proceed, the town needed a 2/3 vote, not a majority vote, as part of their plan of action. And they failed to get a 2/3 vote. So a majority actually voted to do the project, but that's just a nitpick. The other thing I wanted to mention to the TAC is that at the moment, Elizabeth Hughes is working on a grant request under the Safe Routes to School program to install a number of crosswalks, improve the signage, et cetera, which was a follow-up to some actions that was taken through that program in connection with the Thoreau School. So I think it's maybe a nice pilot so that people can see that there is going to be action taken. I'm going to presume that we will get that grant. It's not a lot of money, but it will allow the town sufficient funds to refresh the crosswalks, improve the crosswalks and do them right, and improve the signage. And I think it will also provide people with some understanding of the costs involved in doing projects of that nature. So Elizabeth has taken on that task. That grant will be submitted sometime, I think, next month, and presumably will be awarded shortly afterwards. So, you know, we'll see some action on it. And hopefully Elizabeth will be available to give us a update on that at a future meeting.
Okay, yeah, I mean, thanks, Phil. That would fit again with the discussion about crosswalk upgrades and et cetera. So in the room, come, Tanya, would you come where we can be sure the microphone picks you up for everybody online and the recording?
Hi, everyone. Tanya Gaba, 62 Prescott Road. For one thing I wanted to say was about the committees that you're reaching out to. You could also ask your other members who are not present today. You can just send them a note saying we're looking for people to connect with committees, and also urge other committees to send you a liaison if they need, because transportation affects everything. Another committee I thought of was Board of Health. About the accident crossing the Reformatory Branch Trail with the cyclist who was walking her bike. As I said at your last meeting, I think bona fide red and green light at the crosswalks is a good idea. And I believe, for example, in Arlington on Lake Street, when it crosses Minuteman Bikeway, there are lights. Those lights weren't there a couple of years ago, and I was always nervous driving there, worrying that somebody from the trail would just come on the road. And a couple of years ago, they put those lights, and when I drive there, I'm much more comfortable, and I still watch out, of course. So those work. I think in terms of comfortable bicycling path to Bedford, and that's still the RBT there, by the way. It's not the Minuteman Bikeway yet. I have advocated before for improving conditions on Route 62 for cyclists, and even if it comes to making it one-way car traffic at some portions. And I know a little bit about the history in Bedford and I believe from what I have followed a couple of years ago, is that when Bedford discussed extending the Minuteman Bikeway through their portion of the RBT, most of it anyway, just within a few feet of Concord, they were not discussing a tunnel at first. I am presuming that they were discussing a stoplight there. And then the state suggested the tunnel. And frankly, I have wondered if that tunnel hadn't been suggested in the first place, whether there wouldn't be lights there already many years ago. And as far as the vote in Bedford goes, I think the last time when they were voting on taking of land or purchasing land, or I don't know the correct terminology. It was not even a majority. I think it was just dead even numbers. Just so, but anyway, so my main point vis-a-vis the accident is to separate the immediate need for crosswalk safety from extending the Minuteman Bikeway. And for our purposes in Concord, based on other votes and sentiments and other reasons, to certainly look into safer paths for cyclists by using the existing infrastructure. Thanks.
Thank you, Tanya. Are there any other public comments? Yes, please.
I just have a very quick
Okay,
public
so identify.
comment. Yep, my name is Christine Zale and I'm the new senior planner
Oh,
in the planning office.
okay, thank you. Welcome.
So I
welcome.
just started last week.
Oh,
so
excellent.
this
Oh,
is
welcome aboard.
Just sitting in on boards and listening to what you guys are doing.
Excellent.
So I want to
Okay.
introduce myself.
Okay, thank you so much. Well, hope to see you again. Okay, I will, it's 10:47, so the time is in the record. I will adjourn this meeting of the TAC. Thank you, everybody, for coming and participating, and I'm especially happy that Carlin and Pat came. You're helping us with our goal of collaboration and communication by spending this time with us. Thank you very much.